music is sound, vibration, healing, universe, one song. It's I grew up in Motown, so I grew up with oldies and harmonies and feel good music of My Girl and just like the harmonies and the language of love. And so I grew up as a poet and I would write poetry, you know, with language and words, but I grew up in the DJ culture in the underground scene of electronic music, and Berlin and Detroit are the twin towers of music. And so I went on a program to find out what kind of DJ I was, because I love DJing and I love making the beats on the pads, and they're colorful, and I love making so when I'm feeling something, instead of expressing vocally or instead of expressing writing a poetry piece, I'll express through how I'm feeling: happy, frustrated, anger, whatever, sad. I'll express it on the pads. So the music is poetry for me, right? And so I made these electronic beats, and for my birthday, 11/11, I wanted to release a gift, because the year before I released my poetry book, A Lover's Fairy Tale. And it grew with me for over a year, and I'm like, wow. And so I'm like, what can I do? And so I want to release this music, and I released it under my baptismal name, my birth name as well, Saint Kyriaki, after my yaya, my grandmother. And so I was going to be an EP, and then it ended up being a full album. And so it's electronic music, and 7 out of the 11 tracks are instrumental, and 4 have spoken word poetry on it. So not only did I make the beats of music to get out my emotions of how I was feeling, to, a transfer of energy to get to that homeostasis sweet spot of the infinite, I then was reclaiming my power, because right now I'm on an exploration of women empowerment and exploring divine femininity at all genders. I mean, that's what my season 4 is about on my podcast, She's All Over the Place. And it's taken legs of its own. So when I was young, I've always had this knowing and this power. And I know through experience, not everyone understands, knows, and feels that, because it gets just burnt out at such a young age, where people are just dumbed down in their circumstances and shamed and blamed and told no, and they're just cut off from their own imaginations. That I know as a healer and as a human, that some people don't have that experience. And I know from my personal experience of traveling the world and growing through what I've gone through, I felt like I lost that, and I allowed myself to lose it, to lose yourself, to find yourself. But I was able to regain that. And during the time of reclaiming it, so the album is about exploring divine femininity in all genders, and claiming and or reclaiming one's power. And so by I doing this in my vessel, sharing vulnerability with my heart open, whoever it attunes to, it doesn't matter if it's one person or a million people, whoever hears it, it aligns with them, in hopes it will inspire, shape shift, so they could step more into their divine femininity in all genders.
So when people hear that and they hear your podcast and they hear your music, what do you want them to take away?
Oh, definitely. I want to shape shift to inspire people. I want to ignite their own flame for them to take action, so they can have the courage to start messy and to take one step at a time, and be okay to fall, and be okay to make mistakes, and befriend themselves and be gentle on themselves, because we're a part of the ripple effect. So when it starts with ourselves, and we do that internal work, and we shape shift for more gratitude and kindness and messiness, and learn within ourselves, then Jim Quick talks about, he's great, he talks about, like, when you're a teacher or when you're a student, you get to learn, but when you're a teacher, you get to learn twice. So everything I speak on is something where I was a student that I learned, and then by implementing it and teaching others, I get to make it more impactful, to ingrain that within my own self.
And when you're doing your empowerment work, are you working one-on-one with people, or do you see yourself, is the podcast a way for you to reach the masses at this point?
Yeah, definitely. Podcast is a great way to reach the masses. I do work with people one-on-one on my website. It's just chonacas.com. I do consulting. I even have, group every 2 weeks. It's bi-weekly. It's more group because sometimes when I'm in acting class with Susan Batson, who's Nicole Kidman's acting coach for over 18 years, Juliette Binoche, Madonna, Oprah, like all these amazing people, everyone in the class, they would go and do their work and then they would leave. But class on Monday nights went to 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning. And I would stay for 13, 17 hours because when I was done with my work, because I love to observe. I love to observe. And so when I would watch Susan, the teacher, I would watch her to see how she was responding and reacting, interacting what she was saying to the talent on stage. And then I would watch everyone else's work so I could learn from them. And it would give me perspective of, oh, I want to do that. I want to do something like that. Oh, I'm kind of like that. This is kind of my vibe. I don't want to do this. So I would stay after my scene was done. I always stayed. So I always like to observe and learn. So I feel like there's a great way. My background is cross country running. So what you get an individual score and then you get a group score. And what you do as an individual affects the whole. So I always do what I can do with myself, right? Like I'm not in competition with anyone. I'm on a, I don't want to even say I'm in competition with myself, but I'm in the kind of person who wants to see the best that I can do and cheer myself on in that way. But what I do as an individual affects the whole. So my individual score affects the score of the whole entire team. And so I'm aware of that. And so I think the psychological aspect of life, of my career, of NFTs, of planning short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, and within my coaching, I could do it one-on-one. Everyone's on their own journey. But then also by people, being a collective, they can ask questions and we can learn just by listening. So.
And NFTs, many people are still confused about what it is, and you're deep in it. How would you describe it to someone who is like, yeah, I don't know. What's the simple way to describe it? And then tell us the cool thing that you've done, because you're the first person ever, right, to have poetry in an NFT form.
Yeah,
fantastic.
First NFT artist to put a love poem on the blockchain that's coupled with an original Polaroid that was made by the company Polaroid that discontinued in 2001. Also, poetry, music NFTs, fashion NFTs are blowing up in the space. And not only did I release my album Dreamland 1111 in Web 2, I released it in Web 3. And at Art Basel, Blake Jameson, who's an NFT artist, curator, and collector, he bought 2 of my music NFTs. So not only do people not even know about music NFTs right now, I'm one of the very first artists to sell their music NFTs. I've already sold 2 of my music NFTs. So that's so cool.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. And like I said, it's a psychological aspect. I first got involved in the space in 2018. And it was above my head. And so it's psychological, and it's like, do your own research and study, just listen, grow and learn. There's, a lot of everything out there, but the simplest way, I guess I could say, an NFT is a non-fungible token, and they're digital assets. And it's not just the image of an image of an animation project or a photography, or an MP3 and an MP4 video or music video or a film, or a song. It's the utility that comes along with that. So that's what the intention behind the project of the people who offer, like, what are they offering, right? So there's different roadmaps for different projects. So it's important to understand the ethics of the individuals behind the project, what they're curating, and their community. And if that's the kind of community you want to be involved with, if it's the kind of music you like or the kind of people you vibe with, and what they offer. So I could get into examples of that, but that's kind of like in the nutshell of finding out the ethics of this project. Like it's called like APE, when you're aping into a project. I wouldn't like ape into a project like if I didn't know the people or the ethics of the project. And that's me specifically, because I do my own research, but a lot of people who don't ask certain questions, or get involved in wrong things, that's their lesson to learn, but if you I have a pink sheet that I can gift to you. And so people who go to my website, chonacas.com, I have an automation. It sends a pink sheet, which is an ethical pink sheet of people who I respect and admire in the space. Like I have friends who have brought nonprofit to the space, who brought healthcare to the space, who are, doing very good. Like Nyla, she's so cool. Nyla Hayes, she was a 12-year-old who made 4 million in NFTs last year. She was just on the Today Show yesterday. And she just dropped a collection for kids, the NFT for kids. So y'all could check that out. But like I have these kind of like really good ethical people that you can follow on Instagram and Twitter Spaces. And that's where it's all happening, Twitter Spaces. So the best place for you to learn is on Twitter Spaces and just being in these rooms. And if you want to just listen, you can just listen. But if you want to like ask a question, like you can ask questions if you want or not. But you can, like I said, you can learn a lot by listening. And that's the most important thing to do before taking any action, I think, is just to, though the action would be the research. You like just Google like what is an NFT, and on the pink sheet, you'll have a great people you can follow in the space who are very ethical in the community. And it's cool because when certain projects come along, the community knows if they're like hackers or if they're like not good, and they'll call them out and let people know about it. Like, cause it's kind of like we're creating this new world, and it's happening whether people realize it or not. Like it's already like a whole new world people are living in. It's so awesome. But it's like, you can, be an innovator and be a part of it, or, you can just observe, which is totally fine too. And just get involved and at your own pace. It's a marathon. It's not like an overnight kind of thing.
It's such a good point that you make. If someone is listening and they're like, NFTs, I'm not there. Well, I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk talking, and he said, someday we're always going to have where all of our housing contracts, every contract you sign is going to be an NFT. So at the very least, if someone is like, yeah, I'm not a young person, I'm not doing that. It's not a young person's game. It's an everybody's game. You don't have to be out there super, super active. But I think it's really important as a human living right now, just to know what it is. It's going to likely impact your world in some fashion. It's like, I think when someone was like, Facebook, do you think that's going to last? Funny thing, it impacted the whole world. So NFTs, I encourage you to Google, look it up, get involved in some fashion. I bought my first one over Christmas time.
Which one?
So I bought one in the NBA kind of world for my son for a gift.
Dope.
It was cool. I got to figure
out,
got to do the crypto thing. Yeah, I was like, I need to know how this works.
Which
I need
wallet
to understand
did you use?
it. Yeah, that's a question that I would have known in December.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Some of my friends, there's Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? And then there's some of my friends who some Bored Apes, like 6 or 8 of them or something like that. They one second, I just had to stop this thing. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay. So like 6 or 8 like Bored Ape Yacht Club members, they got together and they created like this SBS society, and it's like for fantasy football. And you know how big fantasy football is? It's so massive. So when everyone like catches on about this, they're gonna like go to the moon, like for sure. And so my dad's really big into fantasy football. So I bought one as a gift for my dad. It's not about me, but the utilities that come along with the roadmap. And you can go to the website, and when you see an NFT project, they have like a website and they have a roadmap, and you can look at their roadmap, and the utilities and the roadmap that come along with these digital assets are really cool. And so I'm like, oh, my dad would like this. He's doing it online. He's with his friends online. This is what they're doing. So it's for him. It's his thing. So I got it for him as a gift, but I'm really excited about the space. And I mean, Astro emojis. I love Astro emojis. They're one of the very first mental health NFTs on the blockchain. And they have mental health and wellness festivals in the metaverse. And we had our first one last month, and it's every single month. And they have a partnership with Wim Hof. So people who are interested in Wim Hof and healing and like mental health, like they have doctors and psychologists and like all these amazing people who are like really educated, who went to like the finest schools, who are in these Twitter space rooms. And you can follow Astro emojis, and you can, I think they're on my pink sheet too, but and you can like learn and like talk to these doctors. And before you wouldn't have access to these kind of doctors. The healthcare system, I mean, it's like jumping through so many hoops, and then you get to a room in a private closed door with someone, and it's like, and then you have to like find five other doctors just to like get the right one. So, but yeah, my NFT projects, I have different collections. They're on my website, chonacas.com, Chonacas. I have so many more collections coming out, which I'm really excited about. But the newest news I have is I just dropped my podcast as NFTs. I wanted to drop my podcast as NFTs for a year now. And so I'm the very first person to ever drop a podcast as an NFT. So it's pretty epic.
Congratulations.
Thank
You know what's this conversation is going to be one where people who are listening who think that we're talking some other language are going to come back like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years and go, I first heard about that on this one conversation and I didn't know what they were talking about, but now I know what they're talking about. So I really appreciate you sharing your story. I love talking to innovators and creators and people that are really developing and at the forefront of what's next. And the way that you have just kind of molded your life. I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I give you a lot of credit. And you mentioned a lot of different things. We're going to put links to all of that on the Flip Your Script podcast website to make sure that people can find it all in one spot. Someone may want to watch that Today Show segment that you just mentioned. So we'll get all of that out there in one spot for people. And the pink sheet, all of it. I think it's fantastic.